was the Houston Ship Channel. And the Houston Ship Channel used to be Buffalo Bayou, a major bayou that goes out from Houston all the way through Houston out to Galveston Lake. And they dredged it out 81 feet deep all the way, 81 miles of, I think, 80-foot deep channel all the way from Galveston to Houston. And Galveston used to be a major port right on the bay. And they bypassed Galveston. When they put in the Houston port, they bypassed Galveston. Galveston became just a slow old city. Houston became a major city, and it had ocean traffic coming. There had probably 15 ships a day coming up and down the Houston Ship Channel.
And how many boats could fit up between one side and the other?
Oh, it was wide. It was a half-mile wide or so.
Oh, wow.
You had plenty of room.
Wow.
Just wasn't that deep.
Well, yeah, it was deep.
Dredged it.
It was 80 feet deep or
Yeah.
so. It would accommodate any ocean-going vessel.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a deep channel. But that long, it was a long way for a channel to go inland.
Yeah.
From a port, from the sea. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we used to ride down the Ship Channel. We were in Pasadena, which was almost to Houston. So when I worked on a tugboat, we drove all the way from Pasadena, California, out to the dredge barges, the dredge that fill the barges. These were old dead oyster shells, which were probably 100 feet deep in Galveston Bay, and we just dredged them up, and they used them to make concrete during the war, which took to the cement plant. And that's where I fell overboard.
Wow.
Buffalo Bayou was coming into, Buffalo Bayou was the main ship channel. And this was another little bayou that was flooding into the ship channel. So the water was swift. It was making whirlpools. It was so swift in the center. And that's when I fell overboard.
Well, what happened? You'd be on the boat, moving along, and then
we had two big old barges, bigger than this house, or longer than that, and like 20 feet wide. And they had pins about this high. When I say pins, I mean those walls. Mm-hmm. And so the oyster shells were piled up inside these walls, real high.
Wow.
And the walls were to keep it from running overboard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like a little hill of oyster shells. Well, a major hill of oyster shells. And we would push two boards. We would tie alongside the forward board and pull the other barge. Mm-hmm. We didn't tow them from the front. We were tied up to the side of one of the barges.
Okay.
And we made that trip. We were on 24 and off 24. Wow. Constantly.
That's a long time.
But this was wartime, and we had two boats.
Yeah.
The company had two boats, and our boat never turned the engine on. Went back and forth every day, and it was two different crews. Anyway, we were going right by where San Jacinto River came into Buffalo Bayou, and it was flood stage, and it was the whirlpools were big as this table going around right in the center of the float. Mm-hmm. And we were pushing two loaded barges coming back to Pasadena, and the skipper said, I want you to move that deck pump up to the forward. Well, there was an area about maybe this wide around the outside of those pens where people could walk. Rather than walk through the cargo, you walk mm-hmm. between the open sea and the barge, mm-hmm. the bend. And he wanted us to move a deck pump from alongside they were leaky old barges, wooden barges. So they always had to be constantly pumped.
Yeah, there's water filling up on the bottom.
Right, so
he asked you to go move this pump because it was in the way of a walkway or something?
No, he wanted it moved to the bow so we could hook it over and pump the other barge. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I had the hoses. Hoses were about this big around. They were maybe 20 feet long that went down into the barge. So I was handling the hoses, and two other guys from the dredge boat. I was the only deckhand, but we had these two guys from the dredge boat, which we brought back and forth for their vacation time or days off time or whatever it was. So they said, why don't you move that up to the bow of this forward barge, no, the after barge. So I had the hoses, and the guy in the middle was carrying the pump, and the guy in the front of him was carrying the front of the pump. And when that bastard got to the edge where there was a deck light, and then there was a bow section that was without cargo on it. As soon as he got there, he turned the corner, and of course my end went overboard.
Because he turned too fast. So
he turned too fast, and I was hearing. I just first thing you know, bang! I was in the water, and I was hit that water, and the current caught me right away, and it was sucked me under.
Because it was a whirlpool.
A whirlpool. So I had to dog paddle real hard and try to get out of the whirlpool. I couldn't. There's no way I could get out of the center. It just keeps sucking me back. So I said, I've got to take my shoes off. I can swim better without my shoes. So I loosened one of my shoes, I bent over, untie it, and I was sucked under. So I had to fight my way back up to the surface and then just try to stay on the surface. That's all I could do was keep my head above the water.
And so what happened with the boat? It just kept moving?
No, the skipper, the other guys called up to the skipper and said, he just fell overboard. And so you don't turn loaded barges loose on a busy ship channel. That would be suicidal for the ship. Any traffic coming would collide and sink. And I knew he couldn't do that. I thought, well, I'm a gunner. He can't turn those barges loose. And I was so scared that my heart was bumping. And all I could do was stay on the surface, and I don't know what I was hoping for. I didn't hope really to survive. I thought it was a dead man. Well, the first thing you know, I turned around and my head like this, and I saw black smoke coming from where Tugboat was. He had rammed those barges up on a sandbar.
No.
Just full speed into the sandbar and turned them loose. I didn't dream that he would turn loose barges. And he came back by me. My head was like this, and I saw black smoke coming out. And my God, here he comes. It never smoked black unless it was really under pressure. Well, as it turned out, I actually, after they went by me real fast, going with the current. I went, but they threw out life rings and life preservers, and they just surrounded me with gear. So I caught on to those and hung on to it went way down, and then before they could turn around and come back, and they picked me up, and I said, first thing I said was, why was that funnel smoking so much? I was scared to death, but I was still curious. And this guy said, well, the engineer took the governor off. The old engine, it had cylinders big around, and each cylinder stood alone. There was space between the cylinders. And a big pipe there, and this was a 40-year-old engine.
Yeah.
A big old diesel that just said kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. But when they came by, it was saying kaboom, kaboom, kaboom.
Working double time.
Yeah, and
He took the governor off.
well, yeah. Later, he was an old drunkard guy. He lived in the engine room down below. This was a big engine. It was as long as this deck here is wide.
Wow.
And each cylinder was this big, around 6-cylinder engine. And the clutch was a handle that you turned like this to make it go forward or backward.
to change gears, or is it just one gear to go forward, one gear to go back?
Anyway, it was an old rig, but it was still working, so they had to use it, whatever they had there in the war.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Anyway, when that was my first real close brush with death, when I knew I just knew it. I knew I couldn't survive. And I did. This was amazing.